So Filip Hrgovic beats David Adeleye on points. Let's talk about it. This was a fight that, going into, I did say I was looking forward to, but I felt that Hrgovic would have too much. And although that did prove to be the case, I haven't slept much last night. It was one of those very hot here, barely got any sleep, but that's woken me up. What a fight. This was one of the most fun fights I've watched this year. That 8th round, I don't think will be beaten for round of the year. That was incredible. So let's talk about it. I've made some notes on my phone here because a lot happened, right? This was a dramatic fight. So to start off, this wasn't a close fight on the cards. Hrgovic clearly won this fight, so let's not get that twisted. Hrgovic came in, he did exactly what I said he'd do in my pre-fight. He was going in against, what he does, he walks in with those straight shots to open up his hooks and his uppercuts on the inside. He walks in behind those straight shots and he's very aggressive and he walks forward in kind of a pressure style. Adeleye, as I said, will be very low volume, not do a lot, and essentially just sort of try and almost navigate and survive the rounds, which is exactly what he did. But that doesn't tell you the story of the fight. Hrgovic gets an awful cut in the second round. His eyelid is hanging off, and Abel Sanchez does a miracle on this cut. I mean, it could have been stopped right there and then, but Sanchez does a miracle on this cut and he somehow stems the bleeding and stops it from bleeding and really sorts the cut out for the rest of the fight. So credit to Abel Sanchez for that. Anyway, we go into the third round and Hrgovic gets caught by a clean David Adeleye left hook, which I did say was Adelaye's money punch, which if there is going to be anything from this fight, it was going to be Adeleye throwing that left hook, if Adeleye had any success at all, and he did. And he landed clean on Hrgovic, and Hrgovic was more hurt than he's ever been in his whole career. Hrgovic was doing this all over the ring, he was zigzag, and again, this was a round he was all over David Adeleye, but he gets caught clean, and as I say, Hrgovic is all over the place. Very lucky, if there had been extra time in that round and if David Adeleye had a better gas tank, he probably would have got stopped. But yeah, drama from early on, and then Adeleye starts to tire in the fourth. He very much goes into survival mode from here. He's incredibly flat-footed. It's just high guard, taking shots. He's getting uppercuts, left hooks, right hooks, straight, the jabs, the whole works. He's getting worked over. Again, by this point, the better boxing skills that I spoke about in my pre-fight, they're really showing now. As I said, he was a very decorated amateur, Hrgovic, and he showed it in this. And he was working over David Adeleye. But then comes the drama. We're in the 8th round. It's followed the pattern of the fight. Adeleye, high guard, ploddy feet, just getting worked about the ring, getting beaten up, basically. David Adeleye gets caught hard with a right hand. He goes down. He's really badly hurt. It doesn't look like the hardest fall, but when he gets up, you can see David Adeleye is, I wouldn't even say a shot. He is a nudge away from going down. He is on the verge of being knocked out. His eyes are glossed over. He doesn't know where he is. And out of nowhere, he throws a Hail Mary left hook, and Filip Hrgovic is all over the place. So David Adeleye goes from being on the verge of being knocked out to on the verge of knocking out Filip Hrgovic, and Hrgovic is all over the place. He's getting left hook, right hook, and of course still David Adeleye is dog-tired by this point. David Adeleye just nearly got knocked out. He's nearly knocked Hrgovic. It was pandemonium. One of the best rounds I've seen in years. It's rounds like that. That's why I love boxing, man. What a round. Anyway, to be fair, for the rest of the fight, after the 8th round from sort of the 9th and 10th, because it was only a 10-rounder, Hrgovic did what he needed to do. He carried on applying pressure. Adeleye was still dog-tired. Adeleye got hurt a few more times. Nothing dreadful. He still hung tough in there. And then Hrgovic navigated it and won it on points. What else can I say? So, oh man, what a fight that was. That was great fun. Look, as I said, on the scorecards, it was a very clear win for Hrgovic, but that was just a really fun fight. And I think both of their stocks have kind of risen. I think a lot of people will be quite critical of Hrgovic in that fight because, again, I said in my pre-fight, it seems that people don't rate Hrgovic because of his style, because he gets hit, because he's not the prettiest on the eye. He doesn't put on a clinic. Even when he outboxes someone and he wins clearly, that wasn't a clinic. He could have got knocked out a couple of times in that fight. So, boxing, just boxing. I mean, David Adeleye stocks have risen. There's no doubt about it. Again, David Adeleye, as I said in my pre-fight, he has very clear stamina issues. That stamina is a massive problem. He's clearly too muscle-bound. He was on the verge of being stopped and gassing out from about 4 rounds in, which is a dreadful look for an elite boxer. So look, there's clearly a stamina issue there, and I don't know how he remedies that, but in terms of Adeleye, his stocks have risen, and look, Hrgovic moves on. So you let me know what you think. I think that was a really fun fight. I thoroughly enjoyed that one. And look, it lived up to the billing. It lived up to expectation. I didn't think it would be as good of a fight as that. I thought it would be more clear-cut for Hrgovic, to be honest. But look, David Adeleye surprised me. And although he comprehensively lost that fight, in a losing effort, he, as I say, he really impressed me. And he just looked... He showed that he's got attributes that are elite. And I said going into that sort of pre-fight that I thought that left hook was elite. And he's shown us that it is. You know, Filip Hrgovic has probably the best chin in the division, if not one of the best chins, and he showed it in that fight. I mean, most other heavyweights would be flat on their back from that left hook, or those 2 left hooks that he took, but he wasn't. And to survive those rounds shows just how tough he is, but also the fact that Adeleye was able to land those, it really shows where Adeleye is at as well. So I was impressed by both guys, but you let me know what you think. I thought it was a really fun fight. You let me know. Cheers, thank you, take care.